Hello and welcome back to the Paddle and Fin podcast. I'm Brian.
And I'm Jay. I'm trying out new intros.
Welcome, Jay. It's been a hot minute since you've been back on here.
Yep. Yes, sir.
Hope you enjoyed your time off.
Yeah, the vacation was great.
Yeah, I wish I could say the same.
It's been super. Oh, man. So how you been?
Oh, what a roller coaster, man. Got a lot to talk about tonight. Obviously, we're going to talk about the past 11 days that I've been on the road. So, yeah.
It's funny. You look like you've been on the road for 11 days.
I got home Monday morning at 1 a.m. It's Monday afternoon. I had to wake up this morning, go to work.
Ooh.
And then got back home and found my couch, and I just woke up. So, yeah, I'm burnt out, man. It was a long trip. Too long. So, and I think I told you at some point during that trip, it's like, it's different if you're like with somebody, but when you're by yourself, it's just a grind, man, you know?
Oh, yeah.
So,
I bet.
But, yeah, I guess we'll start with Kansas, right?
Yeah, let's just dive right in.
Let's just do it. Yeah, left the Wednesday before the Kansas tournament. Got there. That was like a 12-hour drive. And got there, got camp set up, drove around the lake a little bit, and looked at some maps that night, kind of put a game plan together for pre-fishing. I think Thursday, it was like fifth or sixth cast. I landed 18 and something. So I was like, oh, this is going to be decent, you know. And ended up catching a bunch of fish throughout the day. And, you know, that lake there is like super, super unique. And, you know, it's a reservoir that was flooded, so there's a bunch of trees underwater. So, like, and I'm going to preface this a little bit for tournament day is, you know, there's stumps just below the surface that you can get caught up on, trees sticking out of the water, stuff like that. So I know when I originally looked at that lake, you know, my thought was, you know, pitching the trees with a jig and, you know, there should be fish held up at the base of the trees, which, you know, what I ended up discovering is that lake was pretty much going into spawn. Males were on bed. Some females were close by or moving up. Scouted the northern end of the lake Thursday, the southern half Friday. Tournament was Saturday. But when I scouted that northern lake, I think I talked to you. I've never seen so many alligator gar in my life. Like the whole north end up by where the creek or the river, whatever it is that drops in there. It was the water was super muddied up. There was like alligator gar just like sun tanning on the surface. Because I mean, the temps down there were like 76 to 80 degrees, like air temps. Water temps were, I think, like 68, 70, somewhere in there. So I saw a ton of carp and a ton of alligator gar in that north end, and I got out of there. I'm like, yeah, this is no good. So then, you know, I caught a bunch of fish and did the south end the following day. But Thursday, when I got to the ramp, there was two guys launching kayaks, and I'm like, all right, this is cool, you know, whatever. And one dude's like, hey, you do that Paddle and Fin podcast? And I was like, yeah, I'm one of the co-hosts and creators. And we started talking. and it was Alan Reed from Southern Illinois or Southern Indiana Kayak Anglers Club. But he was fishing the pro side and the just regular tournament. Ended up seeing him, and then along with him with Sam Jones. He's down there from as well. So we've kind of become friends, so to speak. And, you know, whatever. We talked. And we... sorry, man. My phone, I didn't turn it off. But so we ended up talking, and come Friday, I had found this spot that was... I hooked into a fish, which would have been my PB had I landed it. It was a huge female. Hooked into her. She ran into this bush, got wrapped around a branch, got over there, and I was like leaning over trying to lip her and get her out. And I was like an inch away from grabbing her, and then when I turned to grab the net to try, netting her, the freaking line broke and she got off. So then I'm like, well, there's some good fish in here. So I stood up, grabbed my paddle, and kind of was just paddling through there looking, and there was just beds all over. Huge females, big males. I'm like, this is the spot. This is where I'm going to come. And I'm coming out of this cove, so to speak, and who comes around the corner but Alan Reed and Sam Jones. And I'm like, oh, hey, how's it going? You know?
Yeah, just hanging out.
And I had a look on my face like, oh, don't go in there. Don't go in there. Please don't go in there. But they had already found that spot like earlier the day before, I believe. I ended up finding out at the results ceremony or whatever. And, but, you know, caught a bunch of really good fish. Come tournament day, we all knew the weather was going to kick up. It was like 30-mile-an-hour winds. So it was like 2 to 3 foot waves.
Oh, it's a beautiful day.
KBF doesn't cancel tournaments, I found out. So I'm like, oh, this is going to be fun. And, you know, right before I left Tuesday night, I had rigged up the new trolling motor setup, which ended up being super key to this trip's tournaments. And there was one point where I was trying to make my way over to that spot I found. Like, I stayed out of there first thing in the morning because I knew there was no way I was crossing the lake in those waves. And there was one point when I was coming back because the wind was coming straight out of the south, right across the lake, long end, whatever. And I had the trolling motor on full, and I was paddling, and I was like doing 0.5 miles an hour. And I'm like, yeah, this is not going to happen. So I turned and went into a cove and fished in there, which ended up being a good thing because I caught a couple fish back in there. But I zigzagged all over that lake tournament day just because, you know, you were trying to play the wind. Well, when I finally got to that spot, it was just chocolate milk because the wind had blown in there. The silt on the bottom got stirred up. So, I mean, I didn't even get to fish that spot. So I ended up having to stay basically on the east side of the lake. And I found some fish, mostly on right off the base of the trees, pitching a black and blue jig with a black-blue crayfish, power bait, chigger craw, crayfish, trailer, and then tossing a weightless 4 and 5 inch black blue flake Senko. You know, is basically how I got all my fish. So it was brutal for a lot of guys. I got a limit of fish, which was good. You know, I was like, told myself, I'm like, I don't think I did that great, but I know other guys didn't do good. It was kind of similar to like what Banner Marsh ended up being, where like half the field zeroed. But I don't think half the field zeroed. I think just half the field only, just didn't get a limit. So, yeah, and I didn't upload because the cell service there was garbage and the tournament was offline. I never really checked to see where the standings were at all during the day, which was kind of nice because it just kind of left the pressure off and, I wasn't worried about it. But, yeah, so caught my 5 fish. I think I upgraded once or twice. There's a ton of 13 and 14-inch fish in that lake, I can tell you that much. But, yeah, upgraded a couple times. Got to the weigh-in, and, this town is like a town of 600 or 700 people, maybe 1,000. I mean, it was small.
Small town, yeah.
So we basically met in this little hotel parking lot, and there was the Kansas Club tournament going on at the same time. So they did the results for that before they did the KBF stuff because they were waiting for, I think it's Josh Martin. He's on the Jackson team, right?
He could be.
Yeah. Jay doesn't even know his own team.
I don't. Dude, we have over 200 guys.
Yeah.
And I haven't interacted with all of them, I'll be honest.
Yeah. Well, I know he does stuff with the KBF, but he was finalizing everything, and after that got done, they came over and started announcing stuff, and they started with 10th place, and my name got read off, and I was like, oh, all right.
You're like, I did something good.
Yeah. Well, it's funny because all the KBF trail events, it's set payouts regardless of number of people that sign up. And so that was kind of nice. I got lucky, so to speak, because I think we had 60-some people, something like that. And
that's a lot of people.
Yeah, well, they based the numbers off 100 people for each tournament. So the fact that I got paid 10th place was good. I mean, it was only $200, so, but I'm not going to complain. I'll take what I can get. But what I didn't realize until last week was that finish qualified me for the National Championship, the Trail Series Championship, the 10 Invitational, the 10, and I think the Pro Tour Championship. On the pro side, I took 4th out of 8th, which, that wasn't as good as I would have liked. Alan Reed took 1st in the pro, 3rd in the regular. And so shout out to Alan. Great job there, buddy. But, yeah, it was interesting. I was like, all right, this is how this is going to go, So...
What do you think you learned from that experience?
Have plans C, B, D, A, whatever, No, I think Kansas, it went as good as I could have expected. I mean, with the weather and the wind and stuff, I think there wasn't really much else I could have done. I know when I talked to Alan Reed after the tournament, he was catching a lot of fish on a fluke. And he was fishing a shoreline that was directly across from the launch. So it was cool, whatever. I pretty much covered all of that lake except for like the deeper water. Which, with seeing the spawn stuff, I don't think there was really any fish hanging out there other than like a different species, I don't think there was really much I could have changed, It was just a matter of finding the big ones, which I think my big one for that tournament was like
Wasn't it like a 17 3/4 or something, 17 and a half?
Yeah, something like that. I think it might have even been 16. But
Oh, I'm padding it. Oh,
no,
it
I
was
honest,
grande.
I'm gonna look real quick here. Oh, it was 17. It was 17. So I had a 17, a 14 and a quarter, and three 14s. That's right, because I know I had like a 12, couple 13s, 13 and a halves, and stuff like that. And I upgraded. I actually upgraded a 14 right at the end there. In 11th place was Jeff Malott from Kayak Bass Nation, and I only beat him by a half inch. So it was kind of good that I upgraded that, right at the end. But that 17 came right off the base of a tree. And that was the other thing, too. Now that I think about it, I had like a 15 flop off the board there. And before I could get a picture uploaded. So yeah, that was the common theme with me throughout this trip was fish flopping off the board.
Well, let's segue into the FLW Nickajack
Do we have to?
tournament.
Oh,
You know, this is, be it what, probably your seventh day on the road. You're camped
no.
out.
Well, so yeah, so after the results or whatever Saturday, went back to the trailer, took like a 2 hour nap. And I was originally going to just wake up the next morning and then drive the whole way to Tennessee, but it was like another 11-hour drive. And I was like, yeah, screw this.
That's okay.
I'm hooking up the trailer. Let's roll. Let's get to 10 IC. And so I headed out and I made it to basically almost the Missouri, Illinois, Kentucky border. Stopped at a truck stop at like, I think it was like 2 or 3 a.m. and slept in the cab of the truck for like 4 hours. Got up, got some gas, coffee, and hit the road. I ended up making it to Dayton, Tennessee at like 2:30. And shout out to Blue Water RV and Campground in Dayton, Tennessee. That's where I stayed. Super nice place. It's actually on not Gunnersville. What's the other one? All these lakes are like right there on the same river system. That's where the FLW event was happening, and that's why it stayed there, is because like HQ for our tournament was at the same place as the FLW one. So I remember when I roll in there, I just see all the FLW boats. I'm like, oh, this is cool.
Yeah, who are you camping next to?
Gary Yamamoto.
Oh, snap. Did you
Yeah.
did you go talk to
Oh yeah, yeah. Every day we talked. I was like, did you get on the fish? And
him?
he's funny, man. He's a character. He's like, today I did not find the fish. And then he'd like shake his head. And then the next day, I that was like day one. And then the next day I saw him. I was like, Gary, did you find the fish? He's like, today I find the fish. And he had a big old smile on his face. But yeah, I think he made it to the top 30 or something. I know after day one, he was in like 19th place or something. But there was a bunch of those guys there, staying at the campground. There was a guy, I texted you right away because I saw his truck. It was like wrapped with Jackson and Orion coolers
Yeah.
and all that stuff. I
Yeah,
forget.
Barry Wilson, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. He's got a sweet setup, dude. His boat and his
Oh,
kayak
yeah.
and his truck. I'm jealous.
Well, Sunday, so, I hadn't had a shower since Tuesday, and this campground had, like, the cleanest, like, freshest showers, like, hot water, pressure, and it wasn't where you had to, like, pump quarters into the damn shower for hot water. So I actually like took a shower, ran to the grocery store, did a few things, and then I went out on the lake there and just fished a bay. I caught a couple fish on the Senko. I think those fish were all in post spawn pretty much. So that was cool. I wanted to fish that, just so that way I could say, I had fished the lake. But and then the next day, Monday morning, started the scouting of Nickajack, which is huge, and it's basically set up where I would say like half of it's a river, and the other half kind of opens up into lakes. So I started out in the river section, like kind of the center area. I was going to check some current breaks and stuff. And I ended up finding some fish that day. And they were just small. They were spots. So I caught my first spotted bass down there. But, it was just kind of crazy. Chickamauga is a lake that the FLW was on. Why I forgot that, I don't know. But, I found some fish, ended up hooking into a new PB freshwater drum that hit the same black and blue jig, which I had a rough time taking a selfie with it and getting the whole thing in the picture. That thing had to be like 15, 20 pounds. I'm like, this is it.
Yeah.
Like 10-pound bass, like finally, And
I'm just glad you took the title away from me.
Yeah. So, so I caught that, and I was just like, what the heck, man, So then I knew that middle section wasn't going to be that great for me, at least. I don't know. I don't think many people fish the center section of the river. So then that night, Austin from Southern Lake Company came down. We recorded that podcast. And, we headed out the next morning, and we went to the south end because he was paddling. So the current in Nickajack is just ridiculous because that dam releases, I think the average was like 38,000 cubic feet per second, which is some strong current.
Please.
When I went and fished...
I've been on that and like on the Snake River. So right.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I tried making my way up through that stuff. I think it was Thursday, and that wasn't happening. But I took Austin down to the southern end of the lake just because he was paddling, and we found this spot that had some current. It was on a steep ledge. It was right before it opened up to like kind of the lake section of the area. And I caught an 18.5 and he caught a 16. And I think he posted the picture of him holding this 16. I know I posted the picture of me holding up that 18. And because I caught mine, and then all of a sudden I heard him like hooting and hollering. So I went over there, took his picture, and then I was like, don't throw that back yet. Let me measure it. And I measured it. It was 16. Threw it back. And I'm like, all right, let's get out of here. And he's like, wait, what? Like, I'm like, no, dude, like, this is a good tournament spot. We need to get out of here. If we catch two fish like that, it's holding decent fish. So we got out of there and went and scouted some other areas. I think we caught a couple small fish, something like that. And then went back. So that night, I remember I jumped on Navionics and I started looking at maps, looking at what that spot looked like, and then trying to find other spots like it that were close by there. And I found one that was the next launch up, so I went and scouted that the next day. And I pulled in the launch parking lot there and saw Alan Reed's truck, Joshua Booth's truck, like a bunch of heavy hitters trucks all in this parking lot. And I'm like, oh, this is great. Like this is not where I necessarily want to be, you know, or maybe it is. Excuse me. So I motored up to this spot, and sure enough, caught like a 16.5-inch fish. And I was like, all right, that's all I need to know. And got out of there. And ended up never going back to that spot. Was that a bad move or a good move? I'm not really sure. But I ended up running into Joshua Booth at the ramp, talked to him for a bit. Headed out of there Thursday, fished up by the dam. And like I said, there was some strong current up there. Caught a smallmouth, caught a red eye, caught largemouth. And I think that largemouth I caught was like 16, 17. But it was just like mostly short fish. And I'm like, this is just not going to do it, you know? Like, you'd have to sort through so many fish. Not only that, you're trying to stay out of the way of a bunch of bank fishermen right there. Because it's a big city park, Chattanooga City Park right there. So there's a ton of guys shore fishing, and the current is strong. And I was just like, yeah, this isn't going to do it. So I got out of there. But so then Friday, I went and found another spot on the south end that was just like that spot me and Austin found. And like 5 casts in, I caught a 19. And I'm like, yep, this is going to work. I'm out of here. Turned around, got out of there right away because I had not seen a boat over there all week. There was nobody near me because Friday, basically, a lot of people were pre-fishing, but we had to be off the water by 1 o'clock. So I'm like, I got these spots that like nobody knows, and nobody's really fishing. So I'm just going to leave this be. I don't want anybody to see me over here. So I turned around, got out of there. I mean, I launched at, I think it was like 5:30 Central Time, and I was back to the ramp by like 6:45, 7 o'clock, something like that. So I went up and scouted another section in the Center River channel again, and that was no good. So, yeah, I'm like, I'm on good fish, you know, like I was super jacked, super pumped. I'm like, felt really good. I'm like, between the 2 spots on the south end, I'm like, I can pull a limit of like a 17-inch average out of there, you know, which I thought would have been a solid like top 20, you know, so to speak, which if I would have had like a 17-inch average, I think that would have been more closer to top 10. What's 17 times 5? But, you know, I kind of was like, all right, you know, I got this set, you know, got off the water by like noon. Yeah, 85 inches. So that would have put me in top 10 with a 17-inch average. But, you know, I got off the water by like noon and, or back to camp by noon. And that was the thing too, because I was staying up in Dayton to the south end. It was like an hour and 15 minute drive. So here's a fun fact. I reset my odometer when I left town, and last night when I got back, total miles driven was 2,985.
Damn.
In 11 days. So
a lot of driving.
Yes, sir. So, yeah, I felt super confident, and but when I left the ramp on the south end on Friday, I saw a couple guys fishing in that spot me and Austin found. And I'm like, great, you know, like, and then I saw a guy standing on the opposite shore with binoculars watching those 2 guys fish with a kayak on the trailer. And I'm like, seriously, dude, like,
sneaky.
Yeah, I wonder what everybody thinks about that. That kind of rubbed me the wrong way. It's like, I've been out here for a week grinding out, finding my fish, and here you are showing up just watching everybody from shore. Like, I don't know, that made me kind of salty.
Well, I guess, hey, so we could probably ask the listeners, do you think that's an honest way to do recon
Yeah.
by watching other people fish from shore with binoculars?
Yeah.
Is that legit? Is that okay? Let us know.
Yeah, I'd love to hear what everybody thinks on that. I think I called you and I was like, dude, like this guy is sitting here, and I was all worked up about it. And I was just like, oh yeah, you're at work. Sorry, dude. I'll talk to you later.
Yeah. Yeah.
But
Yeah. I've seen people do that. I mean, I know there's some people that do it on the water. So, I mean, it's definitely a tool that's employed by a lot of people, and I don't know if it's okay or not. I mean, technically, they're not really impeding on you. It's more of
right,
an honors thing, I think.
right,
It's kind of like when you roll up to somebody, you're like, "Hey, man, how many fish you get?" You're like 12.
yeah,
It's only been two. Just lie, lie.
yeah,
Maybe it's the only way to get truth. I don't know.
yeah. Yeah, so it was just like, man, are you freaking kidding me? And then I went and scouted this one area of the river, which that area where I scouted, I was like looking at my depth finder because I had my maps on too, and I'm like, does that really say 100? There was 100-foot hole in that river. I'm like,
Oh,
Jesus, dude.
you should have drop shotted that.
Yeah, yeah,
Like put like an 80-foot lead on
yeah. Right. Yeah. But so yeah, I got out of there. Felt like super confident. We had our meeting Friday night, captain's meeting, and they just kind of went over some stuff. The FLW guys were there too, not like the tournament anglers, but the FLW tournament directors and stuff. They were there. So it was good. It was exciting. There was a lot of energy in the room. A lot of people were pumped up for what's to come, and that this whole partnership with FLW was kind of the next step in the right direction for blowing up our sport. And what I found totally interesting is after they had announced it, because FLW is worldwide, and when the kayak thing got announced, I guess there was like 20 some other countries that reached out and were like, hey, like, how do we qualify guys to send them to this? So like there's going to be some people from other countries at the big dance in August, which I thought was really cool, man. It's kind of similar to what Hobie does with Hobie Worlds, so I thought that was cool. And it's only going to grow from there, from the conversations that were had at the meeting and stuff. So, obviously me being my normal self, go back to camp, retied some stuff, got all my stuff ready to go, and then just tossed and turned all night. Didn't get crap for sleep. Like, kept going back and forth. Am I going to go hit that spot me and Austin found and then go to spot 2, or just go straight to spot 2? And my gut kept telling me just go straight to spot 2, and I just went to spot 1, then spot 2. So yeah, I just day 1 was not a good day. Go to spot 1. Spot was blown out. Caught 2 fish. I think one was like a 12 and a 13 and a half or something. And right away I was like, I was only there for like 45 minutes. I'm like, yep, time to get out of here. Those boys outfished this yesterday. Go to spot 2. Catch an 18 and a quarter. I'm like, sweet. This is right what we wanted. Then caught a 17 and a half. Well, I got to take that back. I always forget this part. So I'm going to leave spot 1 and kick the trolling motor on, going to shoot across the lake. And I'm like, dude, I should be doing like 4.5 miles an hour, and I'm doing like barely 3. what the heck, you know? Well, I had seen a line that was floating under the water at spot 1. Somebody must have got snagged on the bottom, left a bunch of line. And that got caught up in my prop, like 30 yards of it. So that slowed me down. So I'm like, whatever, just get to spot 2, start fishing, figure that out later. Because that was the thing. There was huge thunderstorms blowing in at like 10 a.m. Central Time. And that was the thing too. Like this whole Nickajack Lake thing was confusing because half the lake is in Eastern time zone and the other half is in Central. So you had to like totally plan out like what time you had to be off the water, like figure it all out. Like if you were fishing the south end, you could launch at 5 a.m., lines in at 5:30 a.m., lines out at 1, check in by 1:30. But if you were in Eastern, it was, 6, 6:30 to 2:30. So, yeah, catch that 18, get the 17 and a quarter. I'm feeling great. Like, this is perfect. This is right before the storm hits.
Literally.
Take the picture. Yeah, literally. Take the picture of the fish, and, it's like, obviously I had a long drive home, and I'm thinking about it, and I'm just like, I think because I did decent at Kansas, I just got lazy at Nickajack, which, right before we started, you were like, yeah, of course, like, the most important one, you just, like, get sloppy and lazy, So, instead of putting my bump board on the floor of my boat, I had it on my lap. Had this fish on there. Yeah.
Great choice.
Yeah.
Especially with your linkage, it's like, so now you're like 12 feet above the water.
And take the picture of the fish, get a good picture. I have my left hand on the fish, and my right hand is my cell phone, and I'm typing in the measurements. And just about to hit submit, and the fish flops off the board, hits the bottom of my phone and my hand. Phone goes up, fish falls in the bottom of the boat. I like reach for the phone, tip it, knock it even further away. I see it land in the water, and I was just like, no. Tried to grab it, couldn't get to it, and it just sank. And I'm just like, what am I going to do? Like, I'm screwed. Like, my day's over. I might as well go home. I screamed some choice words, which I'm sure folks all up and down Nickajack Lake could hear. And I'm just like, why? Like, this is... I had the fish in the bottom of my boat. I could have taken another picture had I had a camera, but I didn't have a camera. Left the GoPros in the truck. Why? I don't know. That was dumb. So I'm like, I'm screwed. Like, I was just like totally besides myself. And I'm like, well, I got to head back to the ramp. I'm like, there's no point in sitting here like sulking about it. And so I took off back to the ramp. And again, trolling motor's not running the best. I'm fighting against current going back. I end up running into a guy fishing under the bridge out of a Hobie. And I'm like, hey, man, explained what happened. I'm like, I got a GoPro in my truck. I had thought about that on my venture back. And I'm like, if I take pictures and get them uploaded, does that count? And he's like, yeah, it should. I don't see why not. So I was like, all right, get back to the launch, because this spot is like, it's a good half hour, maybe 45-minute ride from the launch. And I get to the launch, and there's a local dude catfishing from the actual launch. And I was like, explain to him what happened. I was like, do you have a phone I can use? I need to call my tournament director. So he's like, yeah, absolutely, man. So I had to use his internet on his phone to look up the tournament director's phone number. because all that information was stored in my phone, which is now on the bottom of Nickajack Lake in 13 foot of water. And trust me, I like thought about like, do I dock my boat and try diving down there? Like, you know, like I literally thought, because I know that phone is waterproof for up to like 10 feet, and it was in like 13 feet of water, but I was like, there might be a chance.
Yeah.
And I'm like, no, I'm not doing this. I'm going to waste more time doing that. So, call Richard Penny, and I was like, hey, this is what happened. I do have a GoPro. Can I do that? And he said, yeah, you can do that. However, you have to have your photos uploaded by the deadline in whatever way you got to do that, which is 2:30. Now, going back to the preface, I'm an hour and 15 minutes away from my laptop, a Wi-Fi signal, and all that. I'm like, whatever. That's fine. Thank you. Got off the phone, ran to my truck, like legit ran to my truck, got my GoPro, and that's when the hurricane hit. Like 40 mile per hour winds, like torrential downpours where you couldn't see like 60 feet in front of you. Thunder, lightning. Dude's like, I'm getting out of here. Threw his catfish back in the lake, loaded up his rods, and hightailed it out of there. And I'm just standing there. I'm like, well, it does no good for me standing here. Jumped in my kayak and took off. I'm like, I need to get back to that spot before those fish move out deep. And sure enough, they moved out deep. So 45 minutes back out there, fish, end up grinding out a limit. Got 2 more short fish. Had like another 15-inch fish flop off the board, another 13. Like, it just was not my day. But I did get 5 fish. Then I had to leave by, I think it was 11 o'clock Central, to head back to the ramp, get my boat loaded up in the truck, drive like a madman to Dayton to get the chip out of my GoPro onto my laptop and upload it to TourneyX. So I legit lost a half day of tournament fishing. And I was just like, this is the worst. Like,
well, this is the stuff that nobody knows about. Like, everybody just thinks that, you show up to a tournament, everything starts and ends right where you're at.
Yeah.
And it's definitely not the case. I mean, especially when you get into these, KBF tournaments. I mean, they, large lakes, multi-launches, they've got check-in points, and that's all in correlation with where you're camping, where you're fishing. I mean, I remember when we did the championship, it was, man, I mean, you would drive for over an hour like you're doing. And this is like in Kentucky, and like you can't go anywhere fast for the most part because it's like 40 to 45 mile an hour around all those crazy turns everywhere.
Yeah, yeah.
So I mean, it is so much involved. Like, there's the fishing, and then there's the logistics aspect of it.
Well, here's the best part to this whole story. Right before I left town, I was at Rocktown. Grabbed all the last minute things I needed. One of them was a Sea-Line waterproof cell phone case. Friday night, before the tournament, I grabbed that Sea-Line case. I tethered it to my life vest. Saturday morning, I even put my phone in that Sea-Line case. And I was like, this is too big and bulky. I don't like it. And I took my cell phone out of that Sea-Line case.
Naturally, because it's waterproof.
Yeah. So,
this won't sink.
This could have all been prevented had I left my cell phone in that waterproof Sea-Line case. So, yeah, I was just so furious with myself because of that. It's like, you had that, but no, you didn't want to use it. Like, seriously, had a full-on conversation with myself back to the ramp. And that was the thing. After I got back to my spot, I think I only had an hour and a half to fish, before I had to get off. And, you mentioned check-in points. What they did is Tourney X did like a check-in thing,
Mhm.
but you had to do it through the web browser, not the app. Or you could text Lynette, like your name and checking in. Which I didn't have that phone number because that was in my cell phone, which is, at the bottom of Nick Jack. And so after I got my pics uploaded, I had like 10, 15 minutes to spare. So I drove down to Dayton Boat Dock and checked in with Lynette physically just to make sure I was legit and wasn't going to be, DQ'd or whatever. And I ended up running into Chad Hoover and just kind of gave him like a knuckle pound. And he was like, "How'd you do today, man?" Like, well, and his camera guy was with him, and they recorded the conversation. So I don't know if it'll make it on a YouTube video or not. I really hope not. But, told him what happened. I'm like, my stupid mistake. I paid the consequences. And he was like, "Well, did you get a limit?" And I was like, "Yeah, I got a limit, but I got some shorts." And he's like, "Well, you're still in it, man. Like, don't worry about it. Like, you're still in it." Which in some aspects, yeah, maybe. But I mean, I think I ended up with 68 inches and the leader was like 92 inches. And then second place had like 86. So I'm like 20 some inches off, basically. So I didn't really think I was going to come back from that. But, I had set out, I just wanted to place like top 20, top 30, had my fish been there, yeah, maybe we could have talked about top 10, But, and that's the thing, like, I never, like, yes, taking first place would be awesome, but I've just been, like, shooting for, like, that top 20% of the field, basically, and just to stay consistent. And I ran to the Verizon store and, luckily got some things worked out there. Got a new phone. Went to the captain's meeting to get the day 2 identifier. Went back to the camper. Got all my stuff set up. Did an Instagram live. And, I know I sounded kind of down and out on that, but it was like, you know what? Like, the big thing is like, look, all this stuff happened, but we still have tomorrow. Like, still look forward, get out there, grind it out. And, just learn from your mistakes and keep going at it was kind of the thing I was going for. I don't know if that came across very well, but
Did you put your phone in the little lanyard tethered thing to your vest?
next question.
Yeah. You're like, what? The phone's waterproof.
Well, that was the thing. Like, as I'm, sulking over my day 1 results, I'm like, well, what did I do so wrong? Like, and that was the thing. Like, we've talked about like systems, like putting the fish in the net, pulling your board out, getting rods cleared off your deck, and just going through this thing. And I didn't do that day 1. I was just like, board, fish,
Yep.
So day 2, I'm like, I need to go back to my old system. Had no issues then. And so I did that day 2. Had no issues. Well, and that was the thing too, is my old cell phone case didn't have these ridges on the side. It was like slick.
No,
So you're grabbing a fish, it's slimy and slick, and that was part of the problem. But the real problem was it wasn't tethered to me. So day 2, go to my spot, fish are not there, catch 2 shorts. I'm like, this isn't gonna work. I had no backup plan, like no other spots, like really that I had fished where I found decent fish. So now I'm pre-fishing during actual tournament time. And I had ended up, I think it was day one morning when I was heading out. Yeah, it was day one morning when I was heading out. Kind of right around the corner from that spot, I remembered seeing on my graph like a bunch of like decent fish marks, and I had marked those spots. And it was kind of like came out to a point, and there was current on the one side. On that point was like these huge boulders underwater. So I went up into there, and I ended up pulling like two small fish out, like a 13 and a 14 or something like that. And again, had a couple fish flop off my board day two, but I ended up grinding out the good chunk of the day right on that point, and ended up pulling out a 16 and a half, I think a 14. I lost a 15 off the board. I mean, with all the fish that I lost off the board, we're talking like 12 inches, like if not more. That would have upgraded me. But ended up grinding out that spot, just dragging a Ned rig across the bottom, and they were hitting it, and that saved my day. Even with just grinding out those fish, because a lot of people struggled day two. It was funny, I was talking to Alan Reed and Sam Jones after day one, and what was funny is I had just got back from the Verizon store, showed up at Dayton Boat Dock, and I run into Alan and Sam and told them about my day, and Sam's like, yeah, I gotta go to the Verizon store too. My phone doesn't even work. It won't work. But he got all his fish uploaded. I said, man, the Dayton Verizon store is going to love us kayak guys, So I know he ended up getting a new phone, but what do you call it? We were talking, and it was like, some people are going to fall apart day two. It always happens, And sure enough, it did. Like, I know Christine Fisher was up there after day one, and day two she had, I think it was like one 16-inch fish or 17. The other four were all 12, 12 and a quarter, 12 and 3/4, and I was just like, whoa. And that happened to a few people. Some people only caught 4 fish, but I ground out another limit. I did have one 12-inch fish on there, which I didn't even know if they were going to accept, because it was right on the line, man. Like, it was just barely touching it. But it got accepted and approved. But, with that being said, I still jumped, I think it was like 10 spots or a little over 10 spots between day one and day two, because some people fell apart. I know some people zeroed that tournament. Some people only caught one fish,
Mm-hmm.
But it was like, caught those 2 fish in the morning, and I'm like, with everything that happened day one, I was like, I might as well just go home. I can get home early. And I think that was part of the problem too. Like, I'd been on the road so long, by myself. I just wanted to get home, see my dog, see my family, like, I'm just like, this is ridiculous. And I'm like, you know what? Just stick it out, grind out a limit. As soon as you do that, fish till 1 o'clock, check in, and you can just load up here and go home. I didn't have to go an hour and a half back north to Dayton. I mean, I was right there next to the interstate, so grounded out. What did I end up finishing? 64th or something?
I think so. It was like 63rd or 64th.
Yeah. So, I mean, finished it off, drove home, talked to you, talked to Scott, talked to my old man, and they were just like, this is what it is, man. Like, the fact that you finished 64th with only fishing a day and a half instead of 2 full days against the best of the best, like, really can't complain. And and that's kind of the way I took it. Would I have liked to done way better? Yeah, obviously, but
Sure.
with the circumstances given, like, and that was the thing, like, I grinded out a limit both days, and like I said, like, I know Joshua Booth, like, day one, I think he only had 2 fish, 3 fish maybe. I know a lot of people, like, struggled, man, and it just stunk. It's like, in retrospect, I think what I should have done is, like, yeah, I found those spots that were all the same, but I should have also had a spot that was very different, that was holding some big fish. So that's kind of what I need to do for next time, but ran into Drew Gregory, talked to him for a bit, met Eric Jackson, got to show him how to use Tourney X.
Good old EJ.
That dude's a character, man. Like,
yeah.
Showed up in a red one-piece jumpsuit, with like Jackson kayak patches on it and stuff. Met Chad Hoover, Lynette from KBF, Richard, and a lot of other cool people. But I mean, all in all, it was a great experience. It was definitely a learning experience.
That's pretty much what the championship will be like.
Yeah.
It's long. When you you get to these places, you spend a week out there, and then you do a 2-day tournament.
Yeah.
Man, people want to say, "Oh, fishing's not that hard." Okay.
Well,
like, okay.
And that was the thing too, is like, the big question I had in my mind is like, all right, I got these spots. Are they going to produce fish for 2 days? And I think they would have had the weather not changed, because they were on current seams. So you pull one fish out of there, another one moves in. And I don't know if that was a conversation I had with you or if it was with Scott, but, being the fact that they were in current locations, I think, it would have replenished every day, so to speak. Because I was kind of drifting out to deeper water and releasing those fish out there, so that way, in hopes that a new fish would, kind of move up into there.
Trying to stack your own deck.
Yeah, well, right. I mean, you got to do that kind of stuff. So, yeah, I just, I didn't have a good backup plan had those spots failed, and I knew that was a possibility with the weather that blew in, because that was the thing too. Sunday, it rained all night, because that was the thing in the live stream. It wasn't supposed to rain all night, and I was like, the storm should be over. Those fish should move back up by tomorrow morning, and I should be good to go. Well, I woke up at like 2 a.m. or 1 a.m. getting wet because the fan was on and open in the trailer, and there was rain coming in there.
Oh, wow.
And I was like, what the hell? Because when I went to bed, it wasn't raining. And it rained all night, all morning. So the water was chocolate milk day 2 in those spots. And I'm just like, I'm screwed. Like, anything that could have happened and been stacked against me happened, So it was just like, oh, man. But
I think the more important aspect is I think you got your limits.
Yeah.
As I would measure myself first.
Yeah.
And even with all the adversities, it's like, you still power through it. See, I would have imploded.
Yeah. See, and that was the thing. That was the thing that Scott said. He's like, dude, I don't know how you do it. He's like, after the whole mishap with my phone, he's like, I would have set my kayak on fire once I got back to shore.
Yeah. I know, dude. Tournaments tournaments like drive me crazy. It's probably because I have to work harder than a lot of other people, but oh my God, like once I get that negative side of me, once that thing comes out, man, the positive gets pushed down and
It's
everything just sucks and
well,
you just want to like scream, you want
yeah,
to break rods.
yeah. It's such a mind game, and that was the big thing is like what, and that's what I told myself Saturday morning, when I was getting frustrated. I'm like, you're here just for fun fishing at this point, dude. Like, you're not in contention to win anything. Just grind it out, fish it out. You're lucky to be down here in this beautiful setting, fishing. It's like, that's the thing. Like, I kind of complain, but it's like, in retrospect, it's like, I could be sitting at home doing nothing because it had been raining nonstop up here from what I heard. At one point, yeah. At one point,
Nothing but rain, dude.
At one point, when I was in Kansas, I was talking to the wife. She's like, how's the weather down there? I'm like, oh, it's like beautiful, 75, sunny, just hanging out. She's like, yeah, it's snowing here.
Yep.
So you can go pound sand, basically.
Yep. Yeah, this spring has been awesome up here.
Yeah. Yeah, but, I'm like, just chill out, just, fish it up, do what you can do, and put up a limit and go home. That's all you can do. At least you can say you put up a limit both days, and a decent limit, and call it a day, go home, and whatever. So yeah, hopefully some of you can learn from my bonehead mistakes.
Well, they're going to have their problems too, I'm sure. Everybody goes through it. I've been through it. I've been through it again. Again in that first tournament, I had to like rediscover a system again. I still don't even have it down.
Yeah.
Because the big rig is still really new to me. I haven't had a lot of tournaments in it. I'm still like going through stuff. So I mean, I know how it is.
Yeah.
What do you? What's on the agenda for the next couple weeks? Tournaments? Anything?
Oh, jeez, I don't even know.
I think we got a free weekend coming up.
Yeah, that's next weekend. I know we're planning on fishing. I think in 2 weekends I'm supposed to be fishing down on Caffeine for KBL. And then, after that is, end of the month is KBF St. Clair.
Oh.
Which, and then, 2 weeks after that is Madison Chain.
Yep. The Madison Chain.
Yeah, buddy. That'll
be an interesting one.
I'm looking forward to that one. It's the St. Clair one that kind of scares me. That one's a big body of water. And that could get very unsafe very quick. So, especially if you're out offshore. So, but that'll be interesting as well. So, but from some conversations I heard this past weekend, those fish should hopefully be up close, kind of getting ready to spawn. Because the water temps are still cold. Obviously, it just snowed last weekend, so. But
yeah, you're looking at going up north. Yeah, you're definitely looking at first 2 weeks of June.
Yeah.
Maybe even a little further. Yeah. Especially since it's been so damn cold.
Yeah.
It's so I mean, even up here, the fish are like just now starting to get up there and spawn or come shallow and hit all the typical spring baits.
Yeah, Banner Marsh, I think they were in spawn mode, but it's been so much warmer down there compared to up here. I think fish are just moving on to bed up here. So, it'll be interesting. So I'm going to try to fish some stuff locally here the next couple of weeks, kind of chill out, reset, and, get my stuff together.
I want to get on some pike. That's all I know.
Yes,
With all
sir.
these rivers like insane. I just looked today. The displays at 3,000 CFS. I'm like, that's still too high.
Yeah, same
I'm
same with
like,
the Kish. I looked at the Kish today
yeah.
too.
I'm like, dude. So I'm like, I got to get some lake action.
Yeah,
You know, I'm thinking of a place, weather permitting.
yeah, right, right,
it's
right.
it's got private access.
Yep, yep.
You know, and
I haven't been out there all
who
year.
lives there? Yeah.
Yeah, I haven't been out there once yet in the kayak. I fished from shore a couple times, but yeah, I haven't ventured out on the home waters yet. So
I bet your lake's going off.
I was
I,
kind of hoping
yeah.
to do that tonight, but yeah, I found the couch when I got home. So
Yeah.
yeah, but
Yeah.
yeah, should be good, man. Yeah. So, anything else?
Just waiting to get out there and go fish now that the weather's getting kind of better. Of course, we are taking a 24-degree dip into tomorrow
Oh, really?
from today. Oh, yeah, dude.
What's it
Oh,
supposed to
yeah.
be tomorrow?
It's supposed to be like 54 or something.
Oh, jeez.
Yeah, it's awesome. Yeah. It's so great living here. Look, it's like uh, I just reevaluate it every single day at this point.
I'm going back to Tennessee, man.
I know. Well, I can hear Todd right now. There's plenty of room down here.
Yeah.
I bet. They're gonna make room for two Yankees.
Yeah, right, right, right.
He's always like, "Hey, man, you go mountain biking. Hey, man, you can go kayaking. Hey, man, you go snowboarding. Hey, man."
Yeah.
I'm like,
right.
I know.
Right.
That's like I like my rooftops though.
Oh, man. Yeah. It's so beautiful down there. But, yeah, guys. Questions, comments, future topics, emails at paddle, the letter N, and fin@gmail.com. Go to the website. You can find all our socials, blog pages, merch store, things like that at paddle, the letter N, and fin.com. Shout out to Southern Lake Company for coming down, spending some time with me. I know after the last podcast, a couple of you guys started following him. Greatly appreciated. What else? I gotta check the email. I think we got a few emails from listeners, so we'll drop those on the next pod. And yeah, demo days for Rocktown are in the show notes. So, with that being said, till next time. Tight lines and smooth paddling.